Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm Simon and today I am back with my June book haul. So some of the books that I was sent by publishers and books that I bought myself last month. This is about the fifth time I've tried to film this video and I don't learn because every time I've tried to do it on the day that I wanted it to go live or actually no, I've done it later on in the day like I have today suffice to say, I've tried to do this and I need to break the habit of filming on the day that I want a video to go live because it just puts a little bit of added pressure on. So this is going to be an editless video. So if you like your black and white asides, if you like it zooming in when if you like me zooming in myself when I say something daft, be the next video. This one we're just gonna go for it. So let's get cracking with some books. Actually no, before we do, I want to say a big thank you to everybody who gave me your thoughts in my last book haul video about book hauls. That was really helpful, so really appreciate it. Have taken all those thoughts and comments on board, but the overall consensus is you like them, you'd like me to carry on doing them, so I'm going to be. But I have been thinking about book hauls and the whole consumer side of it and the message that I might put out there. So I'm definitely buying with more intention, or purchasing with purpose is what I'm calling it. Right, so before we get on to purchases, we're going to chat about this lovely, quite petite pile of books from publishers that have arrived arrived last month, starting with one of my most anticipated books of 2025, and that is Son of the Morning by Akwaeke. And yes, I am going to be reading some romantasy. Not something I ever thought I would say, not because I'm against it. I used to really love fantasy novels actually when I was in my mid-teens. Hounds of the Morrigan, anyone? If you know that and you loved it, let me know in the comments down below. I also really love the Whitby Witches. Anyway, so I'm intrigued to head back, and who better than to take me to some fantasy with, I'm hoping, lashings of spiciness than Akwaeke, one of my absolute favourite authors. This is coming out in November, but I'll be reading it very soon. I still need to read Somodina, which is another fantasy book that Akwaeke has written. It's YA, so maybe that's the one to head to first, and then I'll head to Son of the Morning, which I've now thrown on the floor. Right, next up, Canongate kindly sent me a few books, including another of my most anticipated books of the year, which is also out in November, and that is Borderline Fiction by Derek Owusu. And this could be perfect for this month's savage reading prompt, which is to pick a book with two timelines I think it is two timelines, not two narratives, two timelines. And this is one narrator, but at two different periods in their life. However, there's a cyclical nature to what's going on in terms of, there's a cyclical element of the narrative. It's really windy today and one of the blinds is really flapping, but I don't want to close the window because I'm enjoying the breeze that needs to get through the house because it is muggy today. Not that I want to keep doing weather reports when I do these videos, but anyway, so this is about our narrator at two different points in their life, one in his teens and another when he's 25, and he's finding himself in the same situation as he was before, where his life had gone a little bit off track, and he meets someone and basically wants to better his life because of them. And I'm intrigued. I love Derek Owusu's writing. His first novel I thought was absolutely fantastic. I haven't read his second, Lost the Plot actually. I need to at some point, but yeah, very excited for this. They also very kindly sent me two other books. One which is The Lion's Den by Iris Mwanza, and this is set in 1990s Zambia, where we meet a newly qualified solicitor, and the first case that she has been given is to do with a young queer person, and queerness and homosexuality is very much frowned upon at the time. I'm not sure what the laws are around homosexuality in Zambia, I need to look that up, but this looks at that, and I'm very much intrigued for it. I really like that title and I really, really like that cover. I feel like Lauren of Lauren the Books has read this and really, really enjoyed it, so that's a good sign. They also, last but not least, sent me a copy of Swallows, which is coming out in August. I should say The Lion's Den is out now. This is, Swallows by Natsuo Kirino, translated by Lisa Hoffman-Kuroda from the Japanese. This is a story about a woman who is struggling and so decides to make quite a significant amount of money. She will become a surrogate. However, the couple that she's having a surrogate child for start to get slowly more and more invested in her life, but then all the more controlling. I think this sounds fab. I should say I haven't still read Natsuo Kirino's Out, which used to sit behind me on these shelves, and when the room was flipped around when I used to film over there, which is now, well, it used to be a desk, but of course is now more bookshelves because I run out of space. And people used to comment on that book so much, and I think people think I've read it because it's vanished. It's actually just hiding down the back of the sofa, because, not literally down the back of the sofa, there are shelves behind the sofa, but it's on this crime area, but I kept it out of the way because people commenting on it so much. Anyway, random aside. Very intrigued for this. Really, really love that cover. I think it's fantastic. So yes, we'll be heading to that later in the year. Then the lovely folk at Tinder Press very kindly sent me a proof of The Dinner Party by Viola Van de Sant, and it will look pretty much like this when it comes out in November. Another November book. November's going to be an absolute corker, isn't it, for books? This is about a dinner party, but I think, well, at first I thought it was set over one night, because I heard, I should say, lots and lots of brilliant buzz about this from bookstagrammers that I follow in America. And then when Tinder Press said they were publishing it, I left a comment saying, oh, I'm really excited because I've heard amazing things. And they're like, would you like a copy? And I said, yes, please. So here it is. But what was my point on that? Oh yeah, so at first I thought it was a book that was just set at a dinner party, which I think is really interesting. I have not read that many books that are set over a really short period of time, and I would really, really like to read more. But there's an incident that happens to, I don't know if it's our protagonist, but certainly one of the main characters, a really distressing incident that happens in the kitchen beforehand, and it's what follows on at the dinner party and possibly after that, I think. I don't think it is just the dinner party, but like I said, it sounded so great. I was like, right, I would really, really like to get my mitts on a copy when they said, would I like one? I said yes. Then another book that has come, I was going to say unsolicited. That one I said yes to. But these two were sort of unsolicited along with the book that I said I would really like when I was asked. Don't know why. I feel like, I was going to say I don't know why I feel like I need to justify that. But I kind of do, because I don't want people thinking that I'm just constantly asking for books from publishers. That doesn't happen. If anything, I get quite nervous about asking for books that I would really like to read, and I must get better at that. But I also must get better at reading them once I've asked for them. That said, books are very much about right time, right book. But I've talked about that before, and actually it's one of the conversations that was really interesting when you were letting me know your thoughts on book hauls. And anyway, so this book arrived unsolicited, and it is one that I'm very excited for, but also reminded me that I still haven't read this author's debut. And this is Necessary Fiction by Eloghosa Osunde, and I really, really meant to read their debut, Vagabonds, which was meant to be queer with Nigeria myths and legends. This is another book about a disparate, is that the right word I want to use? But like a group of people who don't know each other, but all who happen to be queer in Nigeria, and are all basically just trying to survive. And I would like to read a lot more, like with The Lion's Den and Zambia. I would like to read a lot more books about what it's like to be queer in other parts of the world, be it now, be it in the past. And actually there are a few books that I've got on my TBR where it's the past and now, and I need to head to some of those over the summer. Anyway, really intrigued for this one. Must get to their debut though, because I still haven't read Vagabonds and I really, really want to. So that might go on to the summer reading TBR, which is already, since I made my video on it, which I'll link down below, changed quite a bit. Then came a book that I just thought, as soon as I opened it, looked stunning. It's also a short story collection, which I love a short story collection, but as you'll know if you've been around for a while, I don't head to them enough. I've actually just finished one this very day, which is a book that arrived on Saturday, because when I love a short story collection, I do kind of, not want to inhale them because I feel like I need breaks between, but I definitely like to spend quite a bit of time with them, and they're perfect for reading one, going off and doing something, reading another, going off and doing something, etc. Anyway, what also followed this book, which I should say, how stunning is that? It's the pink. There's something about that cloudy pink that I'm absolutely here for. It's Everyone Still Here by, and please, if you're Irish and I absolutely butcher the pronunciation, can you let me know what it is down below? I should have looked it up. But it's Chuinn. Chuinn. I'm so sorry if I've said that wrong. But after I got this, I got an email from Lamorna, who is one of the publicists at Granta, who has put me in the direction of many, many, many brilliant books, including the wonderful, well, most recently, the wonderful A Room Above the Shop by Anthony Chaplin, which if you haven't read, you've got to read it. It's phenomenal. And she sent me an email saying, Simon, you really, really have to read this. These short stories are just incredible. And so I'm going to be reading this very, very soon. I don't know if they're fantastical or very much set in like a realist sense, but intrigued either way. And just as an aside, and just because again I love Lamorna and we've known each other for a long time, but also she's a potter, and recently I bought one of her, well no, this is one of the 2 mugs of hers that I bought. The custard colour of this, and also it almost looks like it's got sprinkles of vanilla pods in it. Honestly, this is so a me mug. I'm so excited for it, and I will link Lamorna's pottery website down below. Like I said, I bought 2 of these. I've not been asked to talk about them at all, but I thought, as I was mentioning, a book that she'd read about, and she's done me good with many a book in the past. I thought I'd mention her fantastic mugs, and have a quick cig of tea. Swig. Haven't had a cig in years. Then a book that came unlisted, but I'm very excited for because I've been meaning to read its predecessor, is Strange Houses by Uketsu, translated by... I did a big sigh when they didn't come with who's translated on the cover. Jim Rion from the Japanese. Come on, guys. Pushkin as well published loads of books in translation. They should know better. Maybe on the Finnish version it's on the cover. Anyway, whatever. This is part of their Pushkin Vertigo imprint, which is crime novels. I heard such amazing things about Strange Pictures, which is meant to be a thriller but also quite terrifying, and my lovely friend Jen, who does Bookmark on the Wall on Instagram, I'll link her Instagram below, she said it was absolutely phenomenal, and I've been meaning to read it since, and I can see it on my shelves over there, and I do want to get to it soon. That had lots of strange pictures throughout. This has something that I adore, which you can see on the cover because I've been holding it up long enough, and that is a floor plan. I don't know about any of you, but I love a good floor plan. 1, they remind me of Cluedo from when I was a kid, but 2, what I love about a good floor plan is, well, the fact that I see lots of them, because I spend a lot of my time on Rightmove looking at other houses that I'm never going to move into but just want to be nosy about. Well, I say that, almost moved a year or so ago, and the subject of moving, directly opposite me, I can see it right now, is the house that the nuns used to live in, and sadly the final 3, 2 of them sadly passed away, and then the final 3 have all gone into care homes, and it is on the market, and I'm so tempted to go and have a nosy because there is one room that would make the most incredible library double the size of this, which would be very naughty, but it's also a fixer-upper, which excites me. Moving on. I love a bit of basically property porn, and I love a floor plan. I think when I was younger I did used to design floor plans quite a lot. Moving on though, yes, the floor plans become pivotal in Strange Houses, which is the second of Uketsu, who is described as the Banksy of Japanese fiction because no one knows who they are. Have they got the author picture in here? Yeah, I mean, that is terrifying. Is that not terrifying? Terrifying. So yeah, I want to head to Strange Pictures and then head to Strange Houses. Yeah. Right. See, if I was editing, I could have made that looks seamless or zoomed in on my daftness, one or the other, all gone black and white because I realised I was being quite boring about houseplants. Anyway, that's come in another video. Then another unsolicited book that came from the lovely folk at Sceptre and is out now is The Benefactors by Wendy Erskine. I do have Wendy's short story collection on my shelves. I've been meaning to get to that for ages and ages. And she's an Irish author. Her short stories are super duper celebrated and people are going wild for her debut novel. I have to say, I do not like this cover. There's something about the way this is superimposed that kind of, I don't know, it doesn't do it for me. However, I had a look at the blurb and I thought, oh, that sounds really great. This is about a group of women. They all have sons that are 18 and their sons are accused of being involved in a very serious incident, and it's how the women respond to that, how the mothers respond to that. And I just think that sounds like a great premise, and because people have raved about Wendy Erskine's writing so much, I think I'm going to probably really love it. So yeah, I will be heading to this at some point. I've just spotted that brilliant lady on the back. She's giving, I hope she's one of the characters because she's giving it all. And then last but not least from publishers, and a book that shockingly I've read is Room 706 by Ellie Elvens. No, Room 706 by Ellie Levenson. I don't know if you can see because of the, this is not what the book is going to look like. This is just the proof edition, and is why I do, if I'm lucky enough to be sent a finished one. In fact, there's a copy that I'm really keen to get from America, which we'll come to in a second. I will show it again then, because this is nothing like it will be. And also this is 6 months before it's due to come out. But the premise of this sounded phenomenal, as it's a book about a happily married woman who's having an affair with a happily married man. And they both believe that their affairs are adding to their marriages. And on one particular illicit encounter in room 706 of a big hotel in London, the hotel is taken over and there is a, is siege the right word? And so they're stuck in this hotel and they had a certain amount of time before they needed to leave. And so things are going to kick off. And I was hooked. So there we go. I will talk about this more in my upcoming wrap-up, which is going to be an epic one. I was going to call it my spring wrap-up, but it's February, March, April, May and June. So it's kind of winter all the way to, yeah, shall we call that a spring wrap-up, or should I call it a big epic wrap-up, or almost all the books I've read this year wrap-up? Let me know in the comments down below what you think I should call it. But yes, absolutely hooked by this, read it in a ridiculously short space of time. Now, before I go on to books that I bought myself, one book that I was very kindly gifted by the author when I met her for the second time at Women's Prize Live, and that is Nadia, Kabir, Barb, and this is Truth or Dare and Other Stories. And we've been having a lovely chat earlier on in the day, and then she came over a little bit later and said to me, Mum, would you mind if I gave you a copy of my short story collection? I was like, no, that sounds, well, it's delightful, thank you very much. And reading it, it sounds like it's going to be pretty incredible. It says, in Truth or Dare, we follow spellbound as chance encounters bring violent past roaring into the present. We wait on tenterhooks as a woman sits by her husband's hospital bed as both their lives hang in the balance. We watch anxiously as a homeless man begs a woman with her life and career stretching ahead of her not to jump to her death. By turns comedic, heart-wrenching and moving, these stories paint powerful pictures of pain, love and empathy and celebrate the power we have over one another. From the rain-soaked waterways of London to the bustling streets of Dhaka, Truth or Dare is a stunning collection that spans 2 continents and sees the best and worst in both. This sounds like it's going to be ace. So very excited for this. And I hadn't heard of Renard Press before. Also short stories, which, as I've mentioned, I'm a big fan of. Need to make sure I get to more of them. In fact, I might try and have a short story collection on the go at any given point, although if I ration them out a couple of days, sometimes I don't quite get into them. Moving on to books that I bought myself, and as I mentioned, I am definitely trying to be much more intentional with what I buy and purchase with, what was the purpose, purchased with purpose, as I said, which I think I've done pretty well with overall. In June I did. I was going to say in the last month. I have already bought, don't even talk about Iron books, I've already bought this month. So anyway, moving on to last month. The first book that I bought, in fact, no, that's not true. It was the third book I bought last month. Let's move everything around. It's because I've shown it on the channel before, so in my head it's, anyway. When I was on my way to Portsmouth for work, I got stuck in Waterloo Station for a while. I'm just going to take a short aside that I can't make black and white because I haven't the time. But I go on trains almost every week for work, quite distancy trains, like over an hour or so. I don't think I've been on a train in the last 2, 3, 4 years that has been on time with no delays. I mean, that is insane, isn't it? Anyway, I got stuck at Waterloo Station briefly, and so I had to go into Foyles, didn't I? Because where else was I going to go? Apart from M&S, because I'm obsessed with their peach iced tea. If you manage to get an M&S peach iced tea, I'll let you know, I'll tell you now even, it is the best peach iced tea you'll get your mitts on. Moving on, so went in there, and there was a book that I'd spotted because it was shortlisted for the Royal Society of Literature's Encore Award, which is for second novels. And I really like the idea of that because sometimes, I feel not sometimes even, most of the time in publishing, it feels like the onus is very much on celebrating the new, the debut. And I think sometimes it means that if, any second novel, whether the first one's been a hit or not, sometimes gets a little bit overlooked. And unjustly, wrongly, both of those things so. And that's what the prize is there to do, to celebrate great second novels, of which Bright I Burn by Molly Aitken sounded just my thing when I heard about it. This is set in 13th century Ireland, and I think is based on true witch trials that happened at the time, and I do love me a witchy book. I'm also quite enjoying how this is going quite nicely with this top. And I haven't read The Island Child, which is Molly Aitken's debut, but I heard great things about it. But witchy books, that gets me every time pretty much. And so, yeah, I picked it up. I had looked at it, I should say, in hardback quite a few times, but I'm trying to be much better at only getting hardbacks if I think I'm really going to read them imminently. Although I went into a bookshop the other day and I was like, how many books that I bought in hardback swearing I was going to read them there and then have come out in paperback, and I still haven't read them, but I digress. Very excited for this one. I said I wasn't going to edit, but I'm not including sneezes. Just not. Hay fever. So anyway, the other book that I picked up in Foyles was from the incredible display that they had. And I don't know, there's something about this cover that drew me in. So there's a couple actually of books that were cover buys in June, but then that's the whole purpose of marketing, isn't it? Covers make you want to pick the book up. And when I read the blurb of this, I was like, oh my goodness, I've got to read it. So I had to take it with me afterwards, obviously buying it, not just taking it, popping it in my bag. This is Make a Home of Me by Vanessa Santos. Short stories. However, I have read this short story collection because I ended up not on the way to Portsmouth after that, but on the way back when another train from Euston got delayed. I had the pleasure of just devouring this. And what drew me to it is the fact that it sounded really dark and twisty and unsettling. And I've been talking about how I'm very much in the mood for that sort of atmosphere, which normally I head to in autumn, but I kind of want to read all year round. And actually I think is quite good for summer because of that, I don't know, haziness that sometimes a good atmospheric book has. But yeah, I just want to be unsettled all year round, apparently. I won't give too much about these away, other than to say that what I did on the train back was to just pick up the first one and have a little read, because I thought, oh, I'll just give it a whirl, and was so hooked by it, I then proceeded to just read the whole lot. And we'll be talking about this when that wrap up that I mentioned comes of February, March, April, May and June. When I was in Portsmouth, I treated myself to a book from The Works, which seems to out of nowhere becoming the bookshop to head to, as they had a special edition of Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love this edition, not just because it's got great spreads and this incredible cover, but actually it is reversible. So you've got that fabulous cover But it's also great, and I love that. I love the dreamy, pastel-y nature of the clouds. But there is something about this cover that just really, really sings to me. And so I skipped off down to the works on the day it came out and picked it up in Portsmouth. And I will be reading this very, very soon, partly because my friend Tess is desperate for me to give her the proof. So yeah, this I knew was a love story set in space. However, recently discovered it was lesbians in space and was even more intrigued for it. So yeah, very, very excited for this. And I do love me a Taylor Jenkins Reid book. Then the week after that, I was back in London for Women's Prize Live and the Women's Prize finale, and Mum and I were like, we're not going to any bookshops. We do that every time. Come on, let's think of other things to do. And then we remembered that a new book bar had opened in Chelsea, and we love Chrissy, who runs Book Bar. She's phenomenal. I've been a massive fan of Book Bar for, well, a really long time. So I was desperate to go back, and Mum, well, we went back in April. I took Mum for the first time and she loved it. So yeah, off we went to Book Bar Chelsea, and I left with 2 books. The first of which was Caroline Blackwood's The Stepdaughter. This is one of a few books that Virago are republishing. Caroline Blackwood, I don't think has been published for a little while, although possibly, what were they called? McNally Editions, I think, might have done 1 or 2 of her books. Random aside, telephones. I love telephones, particularly old telephones, and this really, really drew me in. I do have The Fate of the Mary Rose, which I'm just looking at the cover on the back of that. It's here. It's got a pear on it. I also really love pears. They're one of my favourite fruits, although, well, no, I think pears might be my favourite fruit. And if you're after a berry, the raspberry is the absolute queen of all berries. Forget the strawberry, it's just a ball of water. Tasteless water, generally. Where the wheel went with that, I don't really know. But back to the book. Yeah, I have had my eyes on this, and it was one that I was like, oh, it's short, it's sharp, it's meant to be a bit spiky and snarky. That's the sort of book that I quite fancy this summer. And so when they had it, I was delighted. I've just spotted, she'll find that wickedness, once indulged, is a difficult habit to kick. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And then the next book was a cover, well, I'm going to say a cover by, I did read the blurb afterwards, but the cover drew me in. And it is a book that I've heard a few things about from America and sounded really, really intriguing, but definitely the blurb got me in. So there might be a couple of blurbs coming, because where I have bought books because of the cover, apart from the one that I've read, which I've sort of given you a bit of an insight into, although no, not much, but creepy stories. Yeah, I've gone off on a tangent now and I can't remember what I was saying. What was the second book that I bought at Book Bar in Chelsea? It was Misinterpretation by Ledia Xhoga. And the blurb, this just sounds incredible. In New York City, an Albanian interpreter cannot help but become entangled in her client's struggles despite her husband's cautions. When she reluctantly agrees to work with Alfred, a Kosovo torture survivor, during his therapy sessions, his nightmares stir up her own buried memories, while an impulsive attempt to help a Kurdish poet leads to a risky encounter and a reckless plan. As ill-fated decisions stack up, jeopardising the nameless narrator's marriage and mental health, she takes a spontaneous trip to reunite with her mother in Albania, where her life in the United States is put into stark relief. When she returns to face the consequences of her actions, she must question what is real and what is not. And this has got some absolutely corking quotes on the back from Eliza Shua-Despan, whose books I really, really loved. Rita Bullwinkle, who I've seen interviewed and think is really, really cool. I need to get to her books. And Jennifer Croft, who I also need to read. And Priscilla Morris on the front. Yeah, so that cover drew me in. That blurb, I was like, that just sounds like a book that's dealing with so much. And the way it's looking at how one person's trauma can trigger someone else's really interests me. But also, this is almost well, it's not the reversal, because it's about someone who's moved away from somewhere to the United States, but then in going back, so you've got the cultures colliding, clashing, all that kind of stuff, which is absolute savage catnip. But also, I said Simon savage catnip. I think Mum likes that sort of thing though, but I don't want to speak on her behalf. But also at the same time, you've then got that going back and sort of, not the reverse, but then seeing how the cultures that you become ingrained in, as well as your sort of your cultural heritage, how they then go against each other. Yeah, I just think all of that is going to be fascinating. So yeah, I think this is going to be great. Then on a few days later, still in London, after Mum and I had said our goodbyes and had a baked good. Oh, and randomly, I at said baked goodery, I was going to call it, at said bakery of sticky bun delights, bumped into the lovely Brandon Taylor, which was very random. I mean, imagine. But anyway, after I'd said hello and goodbye to Brandon and then goodbye to my mum, I went and met up with Alonso, who has the Instagram account Book Swallow Universe, which is a riff of Boy Swallows Universe, which is a big Australian bestseller. And Alonso lives in Australia but was over, and we've been following each other on Instagram a while, so it was just lovely to see him. And we went to a couple of bookshops, the first of which was London Review Bookshop, which I absolutely love, and was looking for 2 specific books there. However, I didn't find either of them, but I did find one of them in Foyles, and we went to Foyles, Charing Cross. I was going to say Foyles Waterloo because that's where I got those other books earlier. Because it is kind of a mothership bookshop, and Alonso hadn't been before, so I was like, well, you've kind of got it, it's necessary. And there, as I mentioned, I found one of the books that I was looking for, and a signed edition, and that's Eat the Ones You Love by Sarah Maria Griffin. This is meant to be a fantastic novel. Well, I think the title gives you an insight into what it's probably going to be about, but I have seen people raving about this for ages and been so excited for it to come out. So to find a signed copy was a real treat. And then they did it again. When I was going through their tables, I saw a cover that I thought, ooh, that's lovely. I hadn't heard of this book at all. I have mentioned it on the channel though, I think. When did I mention this and why? But I have. But yeah, this is a book that I'm so excited for. In fact, I think it was in my summer reading TBR video. This is Land of Hope by Kate Baum, and the cover, I just think that's one of my absolute favourite covers of this year. Hang on, I'll cover my face because then you can see it. And oh yeah, that had me at hello. And then when I read the blurb, I was like, oh my goodness, okay, so I shall read the blurb to you. Daughter, mother, glory, wife of the devil at the moor, Hope Gleason has many names. The child of a shepherd raised in the remote moors of northern England, Hope has always understood the satanic brutality of the land. But when an ear-splitting, unknowable sound destroys the nearby village, Hope must embark on a dangerous journey to survive through the ravaged land with a lad newly orphaned and alone under her wing. As they trek the wilds together to find her husband, her violent past chases her at every turn, and long-buried memories begin to surface. A pitch-black, magnetic and unforgettable meditation on the nature of love, evil and the power of redemption, Land of Hope mixes history in the midst of the English moors to tell a compelling modern English fable of serial killers at the end of the world. I mean, that just, yeah, that's gonna be... I have a really strong feeling that may end up being one of my favourite books of the year. Should I do a 5-star predictions video at some point? And maybe I could do a vlog that I film ad hoc here and there of me reading those books as a sort of catch-up thing. Or would you prefer me to combine the two, do one where I predict what 5 are and then vlog it? Let me know in the comments down below. Then I picked up a bookish book when I popped into West Kirby Bookshop at the end of Independent Bookshop Week. Haven't been here for ages. Got to get a sneak peek of their new shop, which is mahoosive and amazing. I can't wait for that to open. That's going to be incredible. But yeah, the book that I picked up there was The Bookshop Woman by Nanako Hanada, translated by Kat Anderson. Now, I thought this was a novel, but I think it's actually non-fiction. It sold 70,000 copies in Japan. Also, I should say, it's signed. And I'm intrigued by the publisher as well, Brazen Books. Oh, I should say this is from a small press, Indigo Press. And I am trying to buy... I want to buy more books from independent bookshops, but if I'm in a chain bookshop, I feel like if I buy books from indie publishers, that offsets the balance. I don't know. It's how I'm trying to work the whole consumer thing out. Anyway, says the man who still has a wish list on Amazon. I know. But they're books that I can't get in the UK. so in any bookshops. But back to this. So yeah, this is a cult bestseller, and again, is a book that I saw a lot in hardback. I was like, oh, I really want to read it, but didn't get around to. And so it was Independent Bookshop Week, bookshop in the title, you know, there we are. And then last but not least, from bookshops, before I head to some books that I got, some secondhand online, and then also some imports, we have 2 books that I picked up in the wonderful Five Leaves bookshop when I was in there. When I was in Nottingham, where it is, for work. I was in Nottingham for work and went to Nottingham's independent bookshop, Five Lives. There we are. Again, if I was editing this, all that would have been cut out. The first of which was the winner of the aforementioned Royal Society of Literature Encore Award, and that is Lublin by Manya Wilkinson. And this I had not heard about. And again, when I looked into it, I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting. It says, on the road to Lublin, 3 young lads brave drought, visions, bad shoes, Russian soldiers, abandoned women, burnt porridge, dead dogs, hemorrhoids, sneezing, constipation, and bad jokes in order to seek their fortune. You didn't even get sneezing in this video, so be grateful, because you could have got all of those things and more, frankly, in any given day with me. Well, maybe not dead dogs. Anyway, with devastatingly sharp dialogue and extraordinary pacing, by turns absurd, riveting, alarming and hilarious, Lublin is a journey to nowhere that changes everything. This is from And Other Stories. Yeah, I hadn't heard about this book at all before it won that prize. I also might do a video where I read prize winners from lots of different prizes that I haven't covered, because I've read the Women's Prize for Fiction long list, the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction shortlist. I've read most of the International Booker Prize shortlist, but still haven't finished the winners, like cuddling into that, and also is another book from And Other Stories. But yeah, I was really intrigued for this, so I picked it up. And then the final cover buy in a bookshop, which is That's All I Know by Eliza Levy. And just check, yeah, translated from Christina McSweeney. I bought quite a few books in translation recently. I want to read more, so it shows that message is definitely going into my brain. Anyway, yeah, I mean, that cover is just, I mean, it's a bit grim, to be honest, but that gold's amazing. And I was just like, ooh. And I opened up the, who doesn't love a French flap? I opened up the flaps, and it said, 19-year-old Leah is from a village that is out of time, out of jobs and out of hope. She and her friends, however, are vivid and electric with life. They yearn, they dance, they fuck, they fight, and around them a world that isn't quite our own vibrates, not vibrates or vibrates, reverberates, but it's vibrates. And around them, a world that isn't quite our own vibrates with strangeness and threat. Now Leah is here, sitting on a bench, telling a silent stranger her life story, because yesterday, change was finally unavoidable. I think this is going to be ace. Right, on to some secondhand books, which I got from World of Books, which I've had a very unsatisfying relationship with when I've bought from them previously, because I'll buy books that are depicted as being very good and they've turned up rubbish. However, I decided to take a chance on them again with 3 books. The first 2 of which are quite childish buys, but Mum did a video with her latest book haul, and we were both in Barb Books, which is an amazing secondhand bookshop in Northumberland, because we had a break in Northumberland with all of the family, so all my stepsisters, my brother and sister, stepdad, Mum, all of my siblings, partners, etc, and my step-nephew, he was very cute, and Mum had picked up 2 books in there which I hadn't known. Like, if I'd known, I would have got them, so I was really jealous, so I ordered them online. The first of which is Before the Queen Falls Asleep by Husama Habayeb, and this is a Palestinian novel, and I really want to be reading a lot more Palestinian books than I have, and I have been meaning to ever since the horrendous situation has unfolded, but I need to be making sure that I head to them, because I've been buying quite a few but not actually been reading them. And I think reading doesn't change the world, but I think reading can change the world, and I think reading can inform and give insight, and also supporting literature from places that are going through the most horrific times is also quite a powerful and certainly a political act. It might be a small one, and I have supported the situation with Palestine with donations and stuff, but I do think on top of that, informing ourselves through non-fiction or indeed incredible fiction can be really important. The other one that I got, which Mum had got in paperback, but I think the paperback is a bit and I've had my eye on this hardback for a while, is The Jinn Waits 100 Years by Subnam Khan. And this is a tale with a djinn in it, and I love me some myths, legends, folklore, all that kind of stuff, and I just think that cover is absolutely stunning. This was a whopping £3, and the authors do get money from World of Books, unlike sadly in other secondhand shops, but that's the reason that I was like, I will try them again. But yeah, and this I think was £4, and what was a whopping £8, but is not one of the books that I've become jealous that my mother had got from her video, but I was reminded I've been meaning to read, as it was on the Waterstones debut novel prize shortlist. The Waterstones debut novel prize shortlist, that doesn't sound right, but it is right, is Confessions by Catherine Emery, and this is about a young woman who, I think her mother disappears, is that right? No, her mother died, that's right. But I think it happens just after 9/11. And yeah, I've just heard predominantly brilliant things. People I know who've really loved it have said they're not sure about the ending, or that it suddenly ends too soon or something like that. But I've been intrigued by it, and the paperback isn't coming out for ages, and I'm not going to read the Waterstones debut prize shortlist before the winner is announced. Well, I'm not going to intentionally if I do, but I have all of them bar this one, and so I thought, right, okay, I will add that to the pile. And then last but not least, some imports, 2 of which are by the same author and arrived too late for me to get them signed, because I saw this author at Women's Prize Live and she was phenomenal. It was Tayari Jones, and this is Leaving Atlanta, which was her debut novel and looked at some murders that happened, I believe, in Atlanta, not Chicago. The cover would suggest that, wouldn't it? And also The Untelling, which is the other of her books that I haven't read yet. I love these editions. I think they are gorgeous, and she was absolutely incredible at Women's Prize Live. And then I ordered a copy of Open Heaven by Sean Hewitt, who I was meant to do an event with at the beginning of June, but sadly didn't. And I don't head to a book before an event until quite late, partly because I want to have it all like fresh in my head, but also just in case something like that happens. Yeah, but I still really, really want to get to this, and I just think that the United States edition, I just think this edition, which is out in, yeah, the American edition, that's what I want to say. I think the American edition is absolutely stunning, and I've been wanting to get it for ages, so I did. There we go. Right, that's what an unedited, well, pretty much apart from sneezing, video or time. Yeah, not even, well, that is an edited video, but that's what an unedited chat, bookish chat, bookish haul, all those things is like with me. Yes, it is much better when I edit them, and I apologise. I was going to have a chat about what my plans are and reading plans are for July, but really it's just to read by whim, and I've had a very bumpy start, but I have finished a book today. As I said, it was a short story collection, which was a banger, but yeah, it's just going to be mainly reading by whim, and also heading to lots of books that hit that summer, sort of hazy summer atmosphere, a little bit sexy, salacious and hot, but also unsettling and a bit unhinged. That's what I'm hoping for in my reading over the coming weeks, which I'll tell you about when I do my July wrap up in due course. But before that, as I said, coming soon, possibly not next, but coming soon, is going to be my wrap up of February, March, April, May and June. I hope you're doing super duper well. Hope that wasn't too long for you. Apologies if it was. I will be back with another video, hopefully on Thursday. I'm trying not to promise things that I can't necessarily deliver because I'm off here, there and everywhere over the next few weeks. But things calm down after the 21st, so that's exciting. And yeah, right, waffling on. If you'd like more before the next video, then my Patreon, my Instagram, my Blue Sky, and my aforementioned wish list are all linked down below, and I will see you in another video very, very soon. Thanks as always for watching. Let's keep the conversation going down in the comments down below. I hope you're reading something fab. Bye.